November 2022 began like any other month for the luxury industry, but it ended up marking a before and after in the history of modern fashion. The great European houses, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, were preparing their Christmas campaigns focused on magic, sparkle, and tradition. Influencers were signing multi-million-dollar collaborations for the high season. But Balenciaga was playing in a different league. At that point, the brand, owned by the giant Kering, felt completely untouchable. For nearly a decade, under the creative direction of Demna Gvasalia, Balenciaga had been playing with a dangerous, almost addictive advantage: the idea that everything, absolutely everything, was allowed. While other brands measured every word in their press releases to avoid offending anyone, Balenciaga sold dirty, destroyed sneakers for $1,800 and called them art. It sold literal trash bags made of leather for $1,700 and called them status. It sold ugliness as the new standard of luxury. And the most incredible part is that it worked. Every controversy increased its market value. Every criticism reinforced its image as a bold, disruptive, and brilliant brand. Balenciaga had learned and perfected the most important and dangerous lesson of marketing in the internet age. If you generate conversation, you win. It doesn't matter if they speak badly. What matters is that they never stop talking. But that rule has a silent condition. Fine print that many brands forget in their arrogance. It only works until you cross the moral line society is not willing to negotiate. And Balenciaga didn't just cross it. They stomped on it, set it on fire, and then tried to sell the ashes. To understand why this disaster was so colossal, you first need to understand what kind of beast Balenciaga was before the scandal. We're not talking about a classic luxury house. They didn't sell timeless elegance. They sold transgression. Demna Gvasalia, the mind behind it all, is a Georgian refugee who lived through war and poverty, and who used that post-Soviet aesthetic to mock capitalism from the inside. His philosophy was to deconstruct luxury. He wanted to make the rich uncomfortable by selling them things that looked like they came straight out of the trash. Under his command, Balenciaga became a cultural brand. Its goal wasn't to please everyone. It was to dominate the conversation, to be the meme of the week. And for years, that strategy took them to #1 on the list index, the ranking that measures the most desired brands in the world. They were kings. That's why, when in November 2022, they launched 2 new campaigns almost simultaneously, no one in the Paris offices expected a disaster. On the contrary, the market was ready for yet another provocation. They expected people to say, "Wow, that's crazy, Balenciaga," and then go shopping. What no one expected was that this time there would be no irony, no ambiguity, no escape. This time, the world didn't laugh. The disaster unfolded in 2 acts, a perfect storm. The first act was the campaign officially called Balenciaga Gift Shop. On paper, the idea was simple, almost boring by their standards. A Christmas campaign to showcase their gift line and home objects. They hired Gabriele Galimberti, a National Geographic documentary photographer, famous for a series called Toy Stories, where he portrays children from around the world surrounded by their toys. The brand's idea was to replicate that style. Children and their Balenciaga toys. The images showed small children in neutral settings, sofas, rugs, with soft commercial lighting. Up to that point, nothing strange. The problem, the fatal mistake, was what they were holding. The children were hugging handbags. But these were handbags shaped like teddy bears that had walked the Paris runway months earlier. And these bears were not children's toys. They wore black leather harnesses, studded straps, padlocks around their necks, fishnet stockings, and metal buckles. Visually, they were bears dressed in BDSM gear, elements directly associated with adult sexual fetishism. And this wasn't an exaggerated interpretation by internet conspiracy theorists. It wasn't a hidden detail in a pixel. It was explicit. It was the focus of the photo. Balenciaga had placed symbols of hardcore sexual fetishism in the hands of minors. And they had done it with aesthetic intention, surrounded by empty wine glasses and other elements suggesting an adult party. According to the brand, the goal was punk, to contrast innocence with rough fashion. According to the public, it was something far more serious. An aesthetic normalization of child sexualization. The images began to circulate. At first, people were confused. Is this real? Then, confusion turned into nausea. But the worst was yet to come. Because while the fire of the bears was starting to burn, Balenciaga poured gasoline on it with a second campaign. Almost simultaneously, the images from the Spring 23 campaign were released. This one was different, more sober, set in a Manhattan office, featuring actress Isabelle Huppert and model Bella Hadid. The concept was the busy executive businesswoman. The photos showed desks full of chaos, papers, keys, computers. It looked like random mess. But in the internet age, nothing is invisible. In one of the photographs, underneath a $3,000 black handbag, there was a legal document. A printed, crumpled paper, part of the set design. For Balenciaga, it was decoration, visual noise to make the desk look real. For internet users who were already investigating the brand because of the bears, it was a clue. Someone zoomed in, enlarged the image to the maximum, rotated the photo, read the text, and identified it. The document wasn't filler text like lorem ipsum. It wasn't a fake contract. It wasn't a movie script. It was an excerpt from a real ruling by the United States Supreme Court. Specifically, the 2008 case, United States v. Williams. What was that case about? It confirmed that the promotion, offer, or distribution of child pornography is a federal crime, even if the images are not real, but virtual. Stop for a second and process this. In the same week, the brand launches a campaign with children holding fetishistic toys, and another campaign where, hidden on a desk, there is a legal document about child abuse. And there was more. In another photo from that same campaign, behind Isabelle Huppert, users spotted a book by artist Mikhail Boromals, known for paintings that often depict children in macabre or violent situations. 3 elements: BDSM bears, a court ruling on pedophilia, disturbing art. All together. All approved by the most influential brand in the world. The defense of coincidence died instantly. The theory of carelessness no longer held up. To the public, this looked like a perverse Easter egg, a mockery, or a signal. The reaction was immediate and brutal. It wasn't just a public relations crisis, it was a global moral panic. The hashtag #CancelBalenciaga became the #1 trend worldwide. But this wasn't the typical 24-hour Twitter cancellation. It jumped to Fox News, CNN, the BBC, and newspapers all over the planet. TikTok filled up with theories. Some were serious analyses of semiotics and marketing. Others were unhinged conspiracy theories accusing the brand of being part of a global trafficking network. But the reality was that Balenciaga had made all of it possible. They had left the door wide open to the worst possible interpretations. Influencers who lived off the brand began deleting old photos. Fashion content creators, who are usually very cautious to avoid losing invitations to shows, came out publicly condemning the brand to save their own reputations. And then, we saw something unprecedented: the world of luxury, the destruction of capital. Viral videos of former clients burning $1,000 sneakers, cutting up $3,000 handbags with scissors, people throwing clothes in the trash. They weren't doing it for likes. They were doing it out of disgust. Wearing the Balenciaga logo, which a week earlier had been the ultimate symbol of being cool, had overnight become a sign of supporting something monstrous. The algorithm, which had been Balenciaga's best friend for years, became its executioner. It no longer pushed their clothes. It pushed rejection. So what did the brand do? First, silence. A deafening silence during critical hours. When they finally spoke, they made the mistake taught in business schools as what you should never do. They tried to wash their hands of it. They issued a statement apologizing for the bears, saying they should not have been with children. But regarding the legal document, they did something cowardly. They sued. Balenciaga filed a $25 million lawsuit against the production company North Six and set designer Nicolas Desjardins, claiming that they had placed the documents without the brand's knowledge. Basically saying, "It wasn't us, it was the props guy." No one believed it. Anyone who works in advertising, and especially in the ultra-controlled world of luxury, knows that in a global campaign photo, nothing is accidental. Every object is approved. Every angle is reviewed. There are creative directors, art directors, marketing executives, and Demna himself reviewing those images before they are released. The set designer's agent came out in his defense, stating that Balenciaga had representatives on set overseeing every drawer, every paper, and every light. The lawsuit was perceived as an act of corporate intimidation, a billion-dollar giant trying to ruin a freelancer's life to save its own image. The backlash was so severe that Balenciaga had to withdraw the lawsuit days later. But the damage to its credibility was total. They looked guilty, and on top of that, like bullies. Celebrities began to flee. Kim Kardashian, the brand's unofficial ambassador, the woman who once dressed head to toe in yellow Balenciaga tape, released a statement saying she was shocked and re-evaluating her relationship. When Kim Kardashian, who has survived every kind of controversy, publicly distances herself, you know the ship is sinking. Bella Hadid deleted her photos. Hollywood closed the door. Did Balenciaga go bankrupt? No. Kering is far too big to fall from one scandal. But they lost something worth more than money. They lost cultural authority. In the following quarter, Balenciaga fell from number 1 on the list index to number 11, and then kept falling. They became pariahs. Their stores were empty during peak Christmas season. Discounts had to be aggressive and discreet. Months later, Demna Gvasalia had to appear in a Vogue interview, humiliated, promising he would change. He said, "I'm going to stop provoking. I'm going to go back to making clothes." And he did. His next shows were boring, technical, silent. No spectacle, no scandal. Like a punished child promising to behave. This case is now studied not as a technical mistake, but as the perfect example of corporate blindness. It's what happens when you surround yourself with people who only say yes. No one in that meeting room, no one on set, no one in editing raised their hand to say, "Hey, maybe putting sadomasochistic harnesses on kids and documents about sexual abuse in the same week isn't a good idea." They were so drunk on their own success, so convinced they were untouchable, that they lost contact with the most basic reality. Balenciaga believed the public would accept anything as long as it carried their logo. And they discovered, at an enormous cost, that there are lines the market will not forgive. They proved that provocation is a powerful tool, but it's like playing with uranium. If you don't handle it with millimetric precision, you poison yourself. Today, Balenciaga is still trying to recover its place, but the stain of November 2022 is indelible. Every time they post something, the comments still remind them of the bears and the documents. They are marked. And the most fascinating part is that Balenciaga wasn't the only major corporation that committed media suicide that year. Shortly after, another global company, this time in fast food, decided it was a good idea to provoke on International Women's Day. But not with hidden images, with a direct sentence. A 3-word sentence posted on Twitter that lasted only a few hours, but destroyed a multi-million-dollar global campaign. In the next video, I'll tell you how Burger King managed to set the internet on fire by saying, "Women belong in the kitchen," how they tried to fix it in a hurry, and why that mistake is now taught as one of the worst acts of self-sabotage in the history of copywriting. If Balenciaga crossed the line, Burger King stepped on a landmine. Leave your opinion in the comments. Was it a mistake by Balenciaga or a strategy that got out of hand? I'll read you. And if you want to understand how modern empires destroy themselves, subscribe, because the next one fell even faster.